The city stood on the edge of collapse. Smoke coiled above the rooftops, and the sound of marching boots echoed through the streets. Every corner carried whispers of fear, yet underneath the silence, a new rhythm began to rise, the heartbeat of defiance. The rebellion had grown in shadows, fueled by anger, by loss, and by the dream of freedom. Messages spread through hidden tunnels, carved onto walls, whispered in markets, and carried from one desperate soul to another. Slowly, hope began to bloom again in the hearts of the oppressed. But with every spark of hope came danger. Patrols swept through neighborhoods, dragging people from their homes, demanding loyalty to the tyrant. Families were torn apart, trust shattered. And yet, no matter how brutal the punishment, the voices of defiance refused to be silenced. The first strikes were small, supply lines cut, signals disrupted, guards ambushed in the night. Each act was dangerous, each victory costly. Yet together, they formed a storm the tyrant could no longer ignore. Then came the turning point. Deep beneath the ruins, a hidden stronghold was uncovered. Maps, weapons, and strategies filled the halls. For the first time, the rebellion was no longer scattered. It had a purpose. It had direction. And with it came the belief that the impossible could be achieved. But the tyrant was cunning. Spies crept into the rebellion, twisting information, planting seeds of betrayal. Trust cracked like fragile glass. Friends looked upon one another with doubt. And in the midst of the chaos, a trap was set. The rebellion marched into what they thought was victory, only to be met with fire and steel. Explosions tore through the night as the ground itself betrayed them. Screams echoed in the darkness, and what was once a bold strike turned into a massacre. Yet even in defeat, the ember of resistance refused to die. Survivors crawled from the ashes, bloody but unbroken. They carried the weight of those lost, their pain hardening into resolve. The city itself seemed to change. Walls that once bore the tyrant's banners now carried marks of defiance. Symbols scratched in haste, words painted in fire. Every act of resistance became a message. We are still here. The tyrant, enraged, unleashed new horrors. Machines of war rolled through the streets. Towers of iron rose above the people, their shadows a constant reminder of power. But with each new display of might, the rebellion answered with defiance. The people began to rise, not just fighters, but merchants, workers, children who carried messages under their coats, families who had fugitives in their homes. The rebellion was no longer just an army. It had become the spirit of the city itself. Then came the whispers of a hidden weapon, a power the tyrant had been building in secret, something capable of wiping out the rebellion in a single blow. Rumors spread like wildfire, bringing both terror and determination. The rebels knew if they did not strike soon, it would all be over. So they prepared. Every broken blade was reforged. Every scar became a reminder of the price already paid. They gathered in silence, their eyes fixed not on the fear of death, but on the dream of a dawn where the tyrant's shadow no longer ruled the skies. And so the stage was set. The next battle would decide not just their lives, but the fate of generations yet to come. The rebellion had endured betrayal, massacre, and despair. But now, stand at the edge of the storm, one truth remained unshaken. They would not bow. They would not break. Because even in the darkest night, the fire of resistance burned brighter than fear.